Hey, what's going on, everybody? It's episode 287 of the Audible Farm Podcast, and this episode is brought to you by the Fort Dodge Fine Arts Association. The Fort Dodge Fine Arts Association is all about supporting and connecting local artists, musicians, and creators right here in north central Iowa. Head over to fdfineartsassociation.org to find their community calendar packed with upcoming concerts, art shows, theater events, and more. While you're there, check out their podcast, FDT. It's available wherever you listen to podcasts. That's the Fort Dodge Fine Arts Association, celebrating creativity and community in the Fort Dodge area. This week is a solo episode. I'm going to be sitting down and discussing some stuff that I was curious about, and so I was basically thinking my guitar trends haven't changed a whole lot. I kind of like the same sort of music. I kind of play the same kind of style. I gravitate towards the same type of gear, and I found myself more comfortable with certain things than others. And it makes me wonder, how do some people stay current, or do people's tastes change, or what are the trends now, or just things like that. So I was thinking about this from my perspective, or from a beginner's perspective. There's so much gear out there now. I think it'd be hard to kind of siphon through it all and figure out what the best stuff is. So I'm going to be looking at, some of the most common guitar searches for beginners, and then also looking at some of the new trends of guitar searches for anybody of basically any level. So let's get into the episode.
It's the Audible Farm Podcast with your host, Peter Stockdale.
All right, so this is something that I looked up recently. The most commonly searched topics and possibly questions for beginner guitarists. And this makes me think, I wonder if this is going to be the same now as it used to be to try to look up search terms. It used to just be go to Google and look up analytics, and it's not that hard. Now it's everybody's asking questions in different places with all the AI out there. So this is what it has returned for me. It basically comes down to the core playing skills for the most part. Basic chords, chord transitions, strumming patterns, guitar theory, easy song tutorials, and then it's a basic setup. So how do I tune my guitar? What gear do I need? Are online lessons and learning resources online viable options? And then challenges that they face and frustrations. This is a funny one. Fingertips, bar chords, technique pains, trying to get their fingers in the right space, how to practice, motivation to play, reading tabs versus notation, and then interactive and tech assisted learning. So from that list, I gravitated towards a few things on there, and I'm gonna maybe go through a couple of them, but so I'm trying to extrapolate some of this out and kind of see what it was about. So a lot of people are looking for basic chords. That's basically what everyone did, and it does list on here that looking for G, C, and D, which is basically I don't know, the instant gratification of playing a guitar. It's you can play most songs, a lot of songs. That plus a capo can get you pretty much near anything. So that's the easiest way to play music, and it seems to be the most common return for what that search query is anyways. Then it's easy songs for beginners with examples. So 3-chord songs, blah blah blah, same thing. Strumming patterns and rhythm. This is something I never really I don't know. I never looked too much into this. I could kind of just hear it, and it's it kind of sounds like this. And I think some of that comes from playing trumpet growing up. I played the trumpet in school, and learning that there was pauses, and those are the rests, and these are the notes, and they have to be hit here, and this is what rhythm is. It kind of just, I don't know, it kind of just made sense to me. So when I played the guitar, I didn't really ever try to think how am I supposed to strum this? I just made the noise that I was supposed to make when I was supposed to make the noise, so I never really looked too much into that. But I have known from giving guitar lessons over the years that rhythm is not always something that everyone is blessed with. So if you were born with it, if you can clap at the right time, 2 and 4, you don't clap on 1 and 3. I guess you could, depending on the genre of music, but still, if you can clap at the right time, that's a big plus. Not everyone's blessed with that. We've all been in a crowd where everyone's supposed to clap, and it just doesn't quite go the way it's supposed to. But yeah, so rhythm is something that people have always kind of, I don't want to say struggled with. But yeah, it is something I've seen a lot over the years with giving guitar lessons. So strumming patterns, not so much. Rhythm practice, etc. This is something that's like even advanced people like have, I want to say like metronomes and things like that to kind of guide them to be spot on with their rhythm playing as well. But then this listed it out in like those are the basics, but this listed that as like the tier 1. These are just, I want to play something. These are the most commonly searched things. I'm assuming these are like the guys that have like just a guitar sitting in the corner, and nothing against those guys where it's just like, it's here to look cool. I bought it. It was whatever. But cause that's basically how I started playing the guitar. There was just one in the corner of the room. It was at my grandma's house, so it wasn't like there to look cool, but that's the one that I picked up and started kind of tinkering with to be like, oh, these are notes and this is actually how it works. Took me a long time to figure it all out, but that's how I started. So nothing against any of those people, but that's a fun way to start. Just find a song you can kind of play that you kind of know and just kind of play along. So this is the tier 2. This is like the next level of, I guess, what they're going to call the searches. So they phrased it out as like, why does this hurt, or why does this sound bad? So this is people that are playing, but they're kind of finding like, oh, this actually isn't as easy as just pushing it down and it works. So how do I switch chords faster? Why do my chords buds? And where do I put my fingers? So those are like some of the most commonly searched topics in like the first category. So yeah, switching chords faster, that's something that's always hard for people. And I don't know how I learned. Basically, somebody once said just like always have a guitar sitting there so you can just like pick it up, and that kind of helped me because I would just like pick the guitar up and I'd be like, well, if I'm going from an E to an A, it's just this to this, and you'd make the change, and even if you do or don't strum it, if your left hand, I always figured if my left hand speed could get up there, my right hand could always keep up with it. So I just learned how to switch my left hand. You also learn like music doesn't always have to be like all of the notes are here and they're always here. Like, again, there can be some spaces and some rest. There's some movement between stuff. You learn how to like play some of the higher strings and not some of the lower strings to kind of add emphasis on like the bass being like the root of the thing when the note starts or when the chord starts. There's a lot of different things you can kind of finagle that you learn over time that's not necessarily as prim and proper maybe as it seems when you first start. My fingers hurt. That's like a big one too. I was thinking this, it's been a long time since I've been like, oh, my fingers really hurt. There are times though when I play shows, let's say I play like 4 or 5 in a week. Let's say it's a summertime and I'm playing a handful of gigs with a couple different bands or whatever. I'll run into that every now and then where my fingers will hurt. Recently I played a show, 2 shows in a row, and I hadn't played in a while, and it's like, oh, this does kind of actually hurt. When you play a show every other week in the wintertime and then you get 2 in a weekend and it's like, oh yeah, okay, I probably should have been playing a little bit more at home, which is something I also don't do a whole lot of right now. But yeah, so fingertips hurt. That's a common one. Bar chords. Everybody remember the first time you were trying to do bar chords? How do I play bar chords? Why can't I play an F chord? Why can't I play a B chord? Like, it's so funny. I still remember when I was like, all right, I can't not learn bar chords. Like, I have to learn a bar chord. And it's just one of those things where I just stacked it on there one thing at a time. The most basic bar chords, the E bar chord. So you make your E with your back 3 fingers, and then you eventually learn how to like put your pointer finger all the way across to make all the notes there. And it's just a thing you kind of have to. It's like a rite of passage, I think, for like the beginner guitarist into. I think that's like the very next level. Once you unlock that, you start unlocking a whole bunch of stuff. I still remember the first time I started playing bar chords. And I was like, oh man, I really have to move a long ways if I'm going to go from like, let's just say like an F to a D and I'm playing all bar chords. And then you start to think, maybe that's, I think I just didn't realize that like power chords and bar chords were basically one and the same until I really started playing bar chords. I'm like, oh, well, this is just the same thing, really, and then you start to like put two and two together, and all the music just kind of is just like, oh, some of this is just like bare bones basics versions of this, and some of it is, and it sounds that way on purpose because XYZ. So yeah, bar chords, learn them. I guess I don't know what else to say. I remember the first time I tried learning bar chords. Does any of this resonate with anybody? Does anybody remember some of this stuff where you're just like, man, my fingers hurt. My fingers hurt. Well, now your back's gonna hurt. Yes. So those are the tier 2 people that have been playing, that are trying to learn something beyond the basic 3 chords. That's the next level. So the next one is structure and learning. So you're trying to figure out, like, now that I know some chords, what do I do? How long do I practice? What do I practice? Et cetera, et cetera. Practicing is something that's also crazy, because I went through phases where I was playing in a metal band for a while called Unity. And when I was playing with them, I found like practice routines and things like that to increase my speed, because I was not very like fast guitar player. It's not like I couldn't play fast. It just was not my forte. Let's just say I also view playing fast with control is the thing. So like I can play fast without control, but is there control? So that's when I actually like started using the metronome and speeding things up and going X amount of beats per minute, and then you go a few days and you increase it and you keep increasing it, day after day, until before you know it, you're up to a speed where you didn't think you could get to beforehand. But yeah, it takes time to do that kind of stuff, and to figure out how to do that is not always easy. A good example of that was like practicing is not just sitting at home, plugging in your guitar and then just like chugging the same riff over and over again. That's, especially if it's something you've already played and already know, or like something you're just goofing around on. Like, I'm just going to play the beginning of Tornado of Souls by Megadeth 900 times today. And I practice guitar. And it's like, you didn't actually practice. You just played something you already knew over and over and over again. And there's nothing wrong with that. Like, I'm not going to say that's not practicing, because actual practicing is basically the exact same thing, but with like a technique you haven't mastered yet. And I feel like that's always tough, is to find out like what technique you don't know and try to figure out a way to do that. Luckily, the internet is out here, and some of these upcoming things we're going to discuss are going to maybe bridge that gap just a little bit. But that is something I've also found where I like, if I plateau in an area, how do I get to the next level? What's the next? You don't know what you don't know, so it's hard to figure out what you don't know and find somebody that's going to teach it to you, because there's so many lessons out there. But that's also where playing the songs that you already know over and over again, sometimes it unlocks things in your brain. You start to play a whole bunch of like Megadeth and Metallica, and you realize like, oh, most thrash metal is kind of this way, and you figure out like a style, and then you start to go like, you can go down the blues, and you can go down the different areas of the blues, and same thing with like country and whatever. But like that's maybe the other way I would say you can like accidentally unlock some of these patterns and techniques by just learning other genres maybe. But yeah, so another one is tabs and chords versus notation. So this one's basically like, should I read sheet music or not? I don't know if I have a good example of yes or no, but I learned how to play like sheet music for bass guitar so I could, do guitar lessons. Not an easy task, not the same thing at all compared to just like playing stuff. I don't really read music when I play music. Most people I know don't. There's a lot of people I know that play music that have that play guitar that have like zero. They're like, I don't know, I played piano when I was 4 for 3 months, and then I quit, and that was it. Or like there's people that are like that, or like, I never played trumpet, I never played clarinet, I don't have grace, I don't say grace, I don't want grace. I'm throwing out a lot of weird references in this episode. That's what happens when you do solo episodes. You just sit down and kind of blab to yourself. I have changed my setup where the wall is behind me now, and it used to actually be, I used to just sit and like face a wall and just talk to a wall when I would do solo episodes. But yeah, basic music theory. That's the next one. It's probably my favorite thing. It says like light questions. So it's like guitar scales, or what is a pentatonic scale, or how do I identify a key? What is a key? So those are like some of the things. It says it's only searched for when it's immediately useful to people, because beginners don't want theory. They don't want explanations that are gonna just muck everything up. So this is another one of those things where I learned music theory. I took a couple classes on it, and I learned it based on like a piano. And then it took my brain so long to figure out like how that translated to a guitar. But once I unlocked that on a guitar, it was, I don't know, mind bending. It changed the whole game. I think having some of that music theory when I was younger led to me, and this doesn't mean I can play piano. I just learned music theory with a piano. It's easiest to see it. It's easiest to kind of like notate and kind of be like, these are the shapes and that's the steps, and you can kind of just figure all that out a little bit easier. At least I could. But yeah, that was very useful later, and I didn't even know it was going to be. It just kind of like, I just remembered all of it, and somehow, and I don't know. Tabs versus chords. Should I read guitar tabs? How do I read guitar tabs? Should I read sheet music instead? So there's this battle of people not knowing, should I stick with this musical avenue that, like I said earlier, is like the trumpet, which I played, should I do that with guitar, or should I just read the tabs? I went tabs route when I first started, and now I don't necessarily read too many tabs. Sometimes I'll go through and be like, okay, how does this song go? It's in this key. Here's kind of the riff. And if I really want to nail it down, I'll go look up the tab for it. That's usually what I do. But most of the time I kind of ignore the tabs because it's like, I like playing off the cuff. If I can find something close that sounds good, I like that because it's, I don't know, it's kind of how I like to play. So yeah, the next thing is, it says gear and setup. This is a surprisingly persistent topic. How do I tune a guitar? And this is beginner stuff. So how do I tune a guitar? The best beginner guitar, or should I play acoustic or electric as a beginner? Woo! What did you play first? I'm asking you. You're listening to this, so I'm asking you. Just say it out loud, and I'll hear it. No. Okay. That's very good. Yeah, me too. No, I played an acoustic guitar with very high action. Seems like a common thing most people went through. But yeah, I did play an acoustic first. But my very first guitar I ever did get was an electric. I'm almost embarrassed to say it took me 10 years to get another acoustic, because the acoustic I started on was not mine. Like I had mentioned earlier, it was at my grandma's house. But yeah, so best beginner guitars. I was lucky I got the Squier, Affinity Strat, in the package from 20 plus years ago. And those were decent. Those were very decent guitars. I do not have that guitar anymore. It's one of a few guitars that I don't own anymore, that I kind of wish I had. Most of the guitars I've sold, I'm like, whatever. But that one's kind of a sad deal. So it's out there somewhere. My very first ever electric guitar, one of my regrets. My very first ever guitar, big guitar amp is also out there somewhere. It's one of the Marshall MG series amps. That thing was awesome. Absolutely awesome. I loved it. Everyone gives it crap. It was fun. But yeah, did you go acoustic or electric first? What was your first guitar? What was, like I said, mine was the Squier Affinity Strat. Eventually I went to an Epiphone Les Paul because I wanted the different thing, I don't know. But those are the next thing. And then it says there are some new trends. And the new trends, this is what I'm going to delve into a little bit here. App-based learning. Okay. That's fine. I mean, there's different ones out there. Not so crazy. It's a thing. AI assisted or interactive learning tools. What do you, okay. So AI is an absolute crime. No one should ever use it for anything. No, it has good applications and bad applications. I don't think it should be used for everything. It did aid me in compiling some of this information for this podcast, though. So thank you. But what do you guys think? I mean, there's this thing where like, okay, if I go online and I just type in commands and it makes a song, and the only input I have is just commands, and am I really making a song? I don't know. But on the other side of that, if you said, give me some lessons, and you were very, very specific and it gave you lessons, is that okay? Like, I was a guitar teacher. I don't know if I understand where there'd be the thing where like you don't want to lose your job to it, but also like not everybody knows every single thing. So you could kind of tailor this to yourself in a way that could really, really help you. Touchy subject. I wonder what you guys think. The other one is short goal-based lessons instead of long courses. So this is because people have short attention spans. That's my assumption. Oh, there it is. People have short attention spans. Okay. So I don't think there's anything wrong with that either. I guess I haven't done enough of it to see how well I would retain it. It makes me think of things like Duolingo or that kind of stuff, where it's like they try to teach you and just make it a game, and it's short, and you can kind of just pick it up and go with it and walk away from it and do whatever you want. And maybe that's okay, but I don't know. Again, I guess I don't feel like I retain too much if I'm just sitting there for 10 minutes and then it's over with and then I don't ever come back to it. It's kind of like when I would give guitar lessons to people, and from the beginning of the lesson to the end of the lesson, I would watch these people get better. And then if they didn't pick their guitar up until the very next lesson, the next week, you would watch the pattern just repeat itself over and over again. And eventually you would have to have the discussion of, we need to do some practicing at home. But maybe that's, I don't know. I don't know. This is such a touchy subject. I don't want to say anybody, this is a good thing or a bad thing. But I mean, I have used AI in capacities I wouldn't normally imagine I would use it in. It would be kind of fun to have that interactiveness with it, kind of helping you along the way. So what I did next was, those were the topics for beginners. Believe it or not, up there in the topics was like, should I basically take lessons from AI? I don't know. I don't know if it's a good thing or not. But so that just made me think, let's go to a broad scope of everything and kind of say, what are the trends that guitarists in general are looking up going into the year 2026? So what has changed and how has it changed? Again, I don't want to say I'm old school, but I do play with an amp that makes noise. I have a vintage guitar. I don't know. I guess it's vintage. It's almost 50 years old, believe it or not. I can't believe I play a 50-year-old guitar. Whew. I don't know. I never thought about that, really. Okay. So next up is I was just what are the new trends? So online learning and larger platforms. This is something that's big. Interactive lessons and that involve subscription-based services, song-based learning modules. So learning things. I think ahead of its time was Songster. It was a maybe, I don't know, video game. It was probably on a lot of different platforms, but you could plug a guitar into it, learn songs, and play along to it like Guitar Hero, but with a real guitar. I'm assuming there are other song-based learning modules out there that are similar in this capacity. Guitar lessons on TV, amazing. Those I remember pulling up a giant screen and just sitting there and being yeah, this is awesome. When I would go through and do some of my practicing on my own. The one in here that's kind of fun that I've never really done is interactive lesson subscriptions. So you could sign up for a subscription service, which I've seen a lot of these, and some of them, even the basic teaser videos are enough to give you an idea where you're oh, this one actually might be kind of good, or you're explaining a concept just enough to get me curious. So they have a good hook, but I've never subscribed to one of these, and it's basically you go lesson by lesson, and you have lessons with people, maybe over Zoom or Skype or whatever, Zoom. But these are subscription-based services, kind of the once a month, Netflix or whatever it happens to be. Everything's a subscription now. But yeah, that's basically how you get your lessons, is through a subscription. So that is also a thing. Here it comes. Boo, 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 boo. AI-assisted guitar tools. How to shape my tone via prompt, AI tab and chord transcription, and then real-time feedback on practices. Woo, that's pretty wild. So it says it's becoming a foundational part of how guitarists learn, practice, and create music. Again, I feel like AI, if it's used in the background, is okay. If you're using it in the basement to learn how to play guitar, I don't have a problem with it because it's not a whole lot different than somebody learning through tabs. And I think people looked at tabs as like the cheat code for people that had to actually sit down and learn it the hard way by just listening to a record over and over and over again. So there's always going to be these advancements that are going to be the things, but like you don't want basically to just have like AI play the guitar for you when you go out on stage. There's got to be this thing. So I don't think AI should create the music for you. It can give you the skills, and then you can create the music. I always feel like that's the better way to go about doing this or using AI. It does give examples here of like places where people can go to. AI tone generator is a fun one. It says not only for digital amps, so it could be for manual adjustments. So that could be things where you're not necessarily using it to be like, okay, listen to what I have like in my God, I can't even remember. I don't even use them, but basically my digital guitar amp rig, you have obviously your Kempers and stuff, but like, how does this sound? How would you adjust it? And it can listen to it and say what it would do to get you a sound that it wants to do. But it says here you can also do that for like regular amps, and you can tell it what kind of an amp you have and speakers, and it will tell you like scoop the mids or like, whatever. I don't know. But yeah, Smart Tech Enhanced Guitars is another search. I don't know about this. Didn't Gibson try to do this years ago, multiple times, and it just didn't work out too well for him, did it? I don't know. Smart, like, how do you feel about having a guitar that has like extra junk in it? I don't always feel the best about it. Like, the best sounding acoustic I have does not have any holes in it. There's no electronics hookups to it at all. It's the best one. Why? Because there's no holes in it. But when somebody starts ramming holes in things, I have an acoustic with like a big onboard like cut out hole in it, and then like the input jack has this big old chunk in there for all this other electronic nonsense. It's not a super high-end guitar by any means, but those holes do definitely add to the lack of tone that comes out of this thing. So I'm not always a big fan of adding extra stuff into it. I don't even like active pickups for guitars. I think it I don't know, maybe just adds too much compression. I don't feel like there's enough breathability in the music. There's not, or in the, the sound of the guitar. It's just a preference thing. But how do you guys feel about adding, new tech into guitar? It doesn't say things like, this says like this search term is the fastest growing search term for smart guitars. It's up roughly 400% year over year since 2022. Wild. So people are really looking for guitars apparently that have smart tech built into them. I won't say I'm not curious. I would love to get some sort of like goofy MIDI guitar just to dink with it or something, or like some foldable, collapsible, whatever guitar just to have it and say I don't know. There's certain things I would go for, but yeah, I don't really know if I don't know, like I can just imagine it's only a matter of time before you just like plug your smartphone right into the thing. I know they have some of those as well. But yeah, smart guitar is wild. Here's a fun one I didn't think of, but when it came up, I was like, oh yeah, I've heard this. I get it. Okay, so sustainable and eco-friendly instruments. There are a lot of companies out there that were the high-end companies at one point in time that are now so focused on sustainability, basically because the wood's just not there anymore. Not like it used to be. It's all gone. They used it all, and now we're looking at trying to like replenish a forest and age wood and use it. But you're never going to get wood like we had back in the day to use, to make instruments. So a lot of places are trying to either find like sustainably sourced old wood or trying to find a way to make it so their harvesting processes for the wood do not actually deplete the supply of wood that they have. There are some places that have some companies that have bought like forests just to do this. And I never really thought too much about this, but eco-friendly instruments, if you go look at it, I mean, when I was out there shopping for a new acoustic guitar a while back, I was looking through, I couldn't believe how many companies actually have something along this line as an option. So yeah, that's a pretty interesting topic. I never really thought too much about it. One of the things I had mentioned was sourcing old wood in a sustainable fashion. So like one of my favorite things I've seen about that is there's places where they will take like, I don't know, like there used to be a TV show about this where they would like loggers and they would people down in the swamps would like find old logs and stuff like that. They'll like do stuff like that basically and find these old pieces of wood and then use them to make guitars, or like, old burled out like wood, and they'll use it for like the layer on top. There's just goofy things they'll go find that's from the onset wouldn't look like it would be something you should make a guitar out of, but actually it turns out amazing. So the next one is customizable personal expression for players. So people are basically looking for custom guitars. They want custom designs. They want modular parts, which is a new thing I'm starting to see a lot of, where people are finding ways to like install pickups in and out of guitars real easily, so you can switch things and make them change. I saw one in person not terribly long ago where like the pickups were just magneted into the body, and you could just move them around. You could angle them and put them close together for a part or wherever you wanted to put them. Custom guitar designs is another one. Like I do know a couple people who have bought custom guitars. There are companies out there where you can say, I want this guitar, I want it this way, this way, this way, this way. Boom, they make it exactly to your specs and send it right to your door. It costs a little bit more. There are also the options, which I am not a proponent of supporting. This is the Gibson route, which is basically like Chinese factories that'll make Gibson replicas. So there are a pile of those out there as well. I'm not a fan of those, but they do exist. Those are other avenues you can go to get customized guitars. But apparently people are really into customized guitars. They want to have that personal expression and be very unique. I get it. I don't know. I just play a guitar that nobody else plays. I almost never see them out and about. I've seen like 2 on stage since I started playing with it, basically. So for like 5 or 6 years. So here's another one. Vintage and used gear. Who knew? I totally expected this to be on here. I'm always looking up, used gear. It's just fun to see what's around. Every now and then I'll find stuff. I have too much stuff. I'd buy stuff because it's like, oh, this would be neat to have. That's it. That's the end of the line as far as my like logic and reasoning would go. And then before you know it, you're driving halfway across the state to go pick something up. I've seen a couple instruments around lately, and I'm like, I gotta go get these. Or I saw an amp recently. I was like, oh, this would be so awesome to go get. And it's just like, just relax. You don't need more stuff. But vintage gear, used gear, I get it. Trust me, I get it. It's all I'm looking up. Genre exploration and fingerstyle revival. Wild. So there's a lot of people looking up classical guitar. That's something that I've actually seen a little bit more of even in my area. Maybe it's more common on the coasts or out in the bigger metro areas, but even up here there's starting to be a very, very small but mighty revival of that. And I'm seeing it like even in my Facebook feed, and it's not something that should or ever would be in my Facebook feed, but it's showing up there, and it's like, this is actually kind of cool that this is going on. It's like a whole world I didn't know about. Flamenco guitar is a commonly searched topic in this genre, it says. That's cool stuff. All right. Buying patterns and seasonal demand is another one. Whatever. So it's a lot of stuff looking for holiday gifts over the holidays. So you're thinking like your pick punches and just nonsense stuff. New learning goals for the new year, and then back to school promotions were also big search topics. So basically you're looking for stuff on Black Friday or Cyber Monday or whatever, and then trying to find promotions for things to get as much money back as possible. So some trends, regardless of what you're trying to look up, they're going to be there in every genre of search. So yeah, everyone's always looking for a nice little deal online. So what was the takeaway from this? This is going to be basically getting down to the end of the episode, but I don't know. People are looking for new stuff, tech-assisted learning and AI tools, wild stuff. Believe it or not, before I looked this up, that was actually a thought that I had recently that I was like, I want to try this. I want to try playing guitar for AI and just like see if it roasts me and see what it says. Or just be like, I'm trying to do this. This is what I currently sound like. How do I get to there? And then it's just going to explain it to me, and then I'll go learn it. It worked for rebuilding a guitar pedal. Basically told me how it worked, and I figured out the problem based on looking at it. So I don't know. You can learn a lot from AI. Again, I don't think it should be the thing fixing everything, but I think it should teach you and then you can go out and do the stuff. That's my take on AI. I don't know. Maybe yours is different, but was there any of this resonate with anyone? Like some of the learning at the beginning, bar chords, my gosh, my fingers hurt. Well, mine still hurts sometimes. I don't know. But yeah, it's just a thing you just learn to live with. It's kind of like when you work out, and your muscles hurt, and then it's just like eventually you do that for a few weeks, and you just, guess what? They still hurt, but it doesn't bother you as much as it used to because you're used to it. You're used to it. Or like the new trends, people looking up new stuff. Anyone got any cool custom guitars out there? And, anybody ever use AI for a lesson thing, or does anybody have any subscription services to anything that's really cool in the guitar space? I don't know. That's up to you guys to drop it in the comments, start a conversation, see what we got going on. So yeah, that's it. I'm going to see you in the outro. All right, there we go. So 287's done. I don't know. I just thought this was kind of an interesting topic. I do marketing stuff, and I've kind of been like digging into like what people want to do with AI and what are people really looking for and how do they find it when they're like, it blows me away how many people search for things in weird ways that I would not ever want to like look something up or it would never cross my mind to search for it in that capacity, and they find the same thing or something different that's actually like better than the thing I found. It's like, oh, I don't know. So looking in that area and seeing what draws people to podcasts, websites, and things like that, it's kind of weird to just flip the script and be like, what are people looking up in this? And I don't really have any, I've never really looked at any of this stuff. And so it's kind of weird to see what people are looking up and how they're getting to the end results. So yeah, that's basically all I have for you. Thank you guys for listening. Thank you to the Fort Dodge Fine Arts Association. There's no guests, so we're just going to say audiblefarm.com for basically everything. Check out that Patreon. If you guys want to support what I'm doing, toss me $1 a month, something fun there. I don't know. Whatever you feel like. There's episodes a day early there. It's funny. Every now and then I'll get like a fair amount of traffic to it, but not a whole lot of views on the stuff, even from the people who are subscribing. So if you guys want to watch the episodes a day early, they're over there. It's pretty easy. I know everyone thinks it's super complicated, but yeah, $1 a month, that'll do it. I'm pretty sure that's still the fee on there to get in. Otherwise, that's basically it. Audiblefarm.com for everything. At Audible Farm on all the social medias. I have hats, I have shirts, I have hoodies. That's it. All right, later guys. Peace.